There comes a moment in life when you realize that where you are is not where you're meant to stay. You feel it deep in your spirit. Something is shifting. Something is calling you higher. But if we're being honest, that shift doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. It comes in the form of closed doors, unexpected challenges, and moments that make you question everything. It comes in the form of restlessness, a stirring in your soul that refuses to let you settle. You try to ignore it, try to convince yourself that life is fine the way it is, but deep down, you know the truth. You were created for more. I don't know who this is for, but somebody needs to hear this. Your life is about to change in ways you never imagined. The things that felt impossible, the dreams you almost gave up on, the prayers that felt unanswered, they're all about to come full circle. But here's the thing, stepping into that next level requires something from you. It requires you to let go of fear, to silence the doubts, to trust that what's ahead is greater than what's behind. It's time to stop resisting the shift and start preparing for what's coming, because ready or not, your elevation is here. You may not realize it, but some of the biggest limitations in your life are not the ones set by circumstances, people, or even the past. The real limits exist in your mind, in the way you see yourself, and in the doubts that whisper to you when you're alone. These limitations didn't just appear overnight. They were shaped by experiences, by disappointments, and by the things people have spoken over you. Maybe you were told that you'd never amount to much. Maybe you've been in a cycle where every time you tried to step out, something pulled you back. And after a while, you stopped believing that anything greater was possible. You settled into the belief that this is just how life is going to be. But what if I told you that everything you've accepted as a barrier is nothing more than an illusion? That the limits you've placed on yourself are about to be shattered in ways you never thought possible. Think about how much time we spend holding ourselves back, telling ourselves that we're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough. We become so accustomed to seeing ourselves through the lens of our struggles that we forget who we really are. You weren't created to live a life of mediocrity, stuck in the same patterns, feeling like you're never enough. But in order to step into the next season of your life, you have to first recognize the ways in which you've been holding yourself back. Because the only thing standing between you and the life that was meant for you is your willingness to believe that more is possible. You see, breaking through limitations isn't about waiting for the perfect moment or having all the answers. It's about shifting your mindset. It's about choosing to see your potential instead of your past. It's about realizing that your story isn't over just because you've hit some roadblocks along the way. Some of the greatest victories in life come from people who refuse to accept their limitations as final. They made a decision to believe that there was more, even when nothing around them confirmed it. And that's exactly what you have to do. Maybe you've been in a place where you feel stuck, where you feel like no matter how hard you try, things just aren't moving. But what if I told you that the resistance you feel is not a sign that you're stuck? It's a sign that you're right on the edge of something greater. You weren't meant to live within the confines of other people's opinions, within the doubts that try to creep into your mind. You were meant to break barriers, to go beyond what you ever thought possible. And that starts with a decision. A decision to stop playing small. A decision to stop letting fear have the final say. A decision to step forward even when you're unsure of what's next. The truth is, stepping into the next level of your life will always feel uncomfortable at first. Growth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. But discomfort is proof that you're moving, that you're evolving. And sometimes the very thing you're afraid of is the thing that's going to set you free. You've been carrying the weight of doubt, the weight of past failures, and the weight of other people's expectations for too long. It's time to let that go. It's time to step into the unknown, to walk by faith, and to trust that you are being led to something greater. You see, limitations only have power over you when you accept them as truth. But the moment you decide that those limits no longer define you, everything changes. Opportunities start appearing where you least expect them. People start seeing you differently because you see yourself differently. The moment you break free from the mental chains that have kept you bound, you step into a version of yourself that you never knew existed. A version that is bold, a version that is unstoppable, a version that is ready to receive everything that has been waiting for them all along. You have to understand that the limitations you've lived with are not permanent. They were never meant to be. They were meant to test you to see if you would accept them or if you would rise above them. And now you are at a crossroads. You can choose to continue living within those limits, or you can choose to believe that there is more for you, that you were created for something bigger, that the doors that once seemed locked are about to swing open. But it starts with you. It starts with your decision to no longer be defined by what has been, but by what is possible. And when you make that choice, nothing can stop you. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is moving slowly, like no matter how much effort you put in, progress seems distant. You look around and see others stepping into their breakthroughs, receiving opportunities, and living out their dreams while you feel stuck in the same place. You wonder if your time will ever come, if things will ever shift for you. But what if I told you that when the right time comes, things won't just change, they will accelerate? What once felt impossible will suddenly come together, and what took years for others will happen in moments for you. This is what happens when divine acceleration takes place. It's not something you can predict, and it's not something you can control. It's something that happens when you are in alignment, when your preparation meets the right timing, and when what has been set in motion finally reaches its fulfillment. Divine acceleration defies logic. It's when opportunities open up that you didn't even see coming. It's when you find yourself in places you didn't think you were qualified for. It's when the years of struggle suddenly make sense because everything that was delayed now arrives all at once. Some people spend their entire lives trying to force doors open, trying to make things happen through their own strength. But when acceleration takes place, it's not about your strength, your connections, or even your qualifications. It's about a force greater than you moving things on your behalf. Sometimes the waiting period makes you believe that nothing is happening. You've put in the work, you've endured the struggle, and yet things seem unchanged. But what you don't realize is that behind the scenes, things have already started shifting. The delay wasn't a denial. It was a setup. It was a period of preparation, of refining, of stretching you so that when the moment comes, you are ready to step into it fully. Because what good is acceleration if you aren't prepared to handle what comes with it? Many people want quick success, quick results, and instant blessings, but they don't realize that without the process, they won't be able to sustain what they receive. That's why the waiting season was necessary. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. When divine acceleration takes place, things happen suddenly. The same person who was overlooked for years is suddenly the one everyone is seeking out. The business idea that was struggling to take off is now in demand. The dreams that seemed distant now unfold in a way that is beyond what was imagined. And when it happens, it won't make sense to those around you. People will wonder how you got there so quickly, how things shifted so fast, how what seemed impossible for so long became a reality overnight. But what they don't see is the years of faith, the years of endurance, and the moments when you wanted to give up but kept going anyway. Acceleration doesn't mean there won't be challenges. It doesn't mean there won't be moments of doubt, but it does mean that what is for you will come in a way that no obstacle can stop. What was meant to slow you down, to break you, to keep you in a place of stagnation will no longer have power over you, because when the right time comes, nothing can stand in the way of where you are meant to go. The closed doors will suddenly open. The things that once felt out of reach will now feel like they were waiting for you all along. And all of the struggles, all of the delays, all of the moments where you question if it would ever happen will no longer matter, because now the shift has begun. The beauty of acceleration is that it's not based on what you deserve. It's based on what has already been destined for you. And when it happens, you will look back and realize that every setback was just setting the stage for a greater comeback. The years you thought were wasted were actually years of foundation building. The moments you spent in the background were actually preparing you for a stage that required more than just talent. It required depth, resilience, and readiness. Because acceleration isn't just about moving fast. It's about moving with purpose. And when you step into that season, it won't just be about arriving. It will be about thriving in places you never thought you'd reach. There comes a time in life when everything you've been through starts to make sense. When you realize that every struggle, every challenge, and every setback was not meant to destroy you, but to prepare you. It's easy to look at the difficulties you faced and wonder why you had to go through so much pain, why the journey had to be so hard, why the doors didn't open when you expected them to. But what you don't always see in the moment is that the wilderness was never meant to be your final destination. It was only the training ground. It was shaping you in ways you couldn't yet understand. It was strengthening you for what was coming. And sometimes the only way to step into something greater is to first be tested in a place where you feel like you have nothing. The wilderness is not a place of comfort. It's a place of uncertainty, a place where you feel like you're walking without a clear direction, a place where things don't seem to be moving the way you expected. It's where patience is tested, where faith is stretched, and where endurance is built. It's where you start questioning if you even have what it takes to make it through. But what you don't realize is that while you were in that season of struggle, something was shifting inside of you. You were learning how to stand firm when things didn't go your way. You were learning how to hold on even when it felt like everything was falling apart. You were learning how to trust the process even when it made no sense. There were moments in the wilderness when you wanted to give up, when you felt like you were stuck in the same cycle with no way out. It felt like no matter how hard you tried, the doors remained closed, the opportunities didn't come, and the breakthrough seemed further away than ever. But what you didn't see was the work happening beneath the surface. You didn't see how each challenge was preparing you for the moment when things would finally shift. Because if you had stepped into the next season without the lessons of the wilderness, you wouldn't have been ready. You wouldn't have had the strength, the resilience, or the wisdom needed to handle what was waiting for you. There are certain things that can only be learned through experience. You can't develop true patience without having to wait. You can't develop true strength without facing challenges that push you to your limits. You can't develop unshakable faith if you've never been in a position where you had to trust beyond what you could see. That's why the wilderness was necessary. It was refining you. It was stripping away everything that wasn't meant to go with you into the next chapter. It was showing you what really mattered, removing distractions and forcing you to rely on something deeper than your own understanding. Many people want the reward but don't want the process. They want the promotion without the preparation, the victory without the battle, the growth without the struggle, but there's no shortcut to true transformation. The wilderness is where you learn who you really are. It's where you discover your capacity, where you develop the ability to stand firm in the face of adversity. It's where you realize that you are capable of handling more than you ever thought possible. At times, it felt like you were alone in that season, like nobody understood what you were going through, like you were fighting battles that nobody else could see. But looking back, you'll realize that even in the toughest moments, there was something keeping you going, something pushing you forward, refusing to let you give up. Because your story wasn't meant to end in the wilderness. It was only the beginning of something greater. Everything that felt like a setback was actually setting the stage. Every closed door was protecting you from something that wasn't meant for you. Every moment of delay was ensuring that when the time came, you would be fully equipped to handle the opportunity that was waiting for you. What once felt like a place of pain was actually a place of preparation. What once felt like a season of loss was actually making room for something greater to come. One day you will look back at the wilderness and see it differently. you will see it not as a place of suffering, but as the foundation that gave you the strength to walk into the future that was always meant for you. Because nothing was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single struggle, not a single moment of doubt. It was all working together to prepare you for what's next. One of the biggest battles we face in life is the battle of belief. Belief in ourselves, belief in our purpose, and belief that something greater is ahead. It's easy to settle into a routine, to accept life as it is, and to assume that the best has already passed. But there is a shift that happens when you start to believe that there is more for you. When you move from a place of doubt to a place of expectation, everything changes. The way you think, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, it all begins to align with the belief that your future holds something bigger than what you've seen so far. And that shift in belief is what unlocks doors that seemed impossible to open before. The mind is powerful. It has the ability to shape reality, to create limitations, or to break them. If you tell yourself that you will never succeed, that life will never change, that things will always be difficult, then you will unknowingly start walking in that direction. Your actions will follow the narrative you've accepted. But when you start believing that something greater is ahead, you begin moving differently. You stop walking with hesitation and start walking with confidence. You stop shrinking back in fear and start stepping forward with boldness. Your belief doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you show up in the world. Many people live their entire lives never realizing that they were meant for more, simply because they never believed it was possible. They allowed fear, past failures, and other people's opinions to shape their expectations. But expectation is a powerful thing. When you expect more, you prepare for more. When you believe there is greater ahead, you start making room for it. You don't wait until things happen to start acting differently. You start acting differently now because you know it's only a matter of time before what you believe comes to pass. But belief is not always easy. Life has a way of testing your faith, making you question if you were wrong to hope for something bigger. You've been disappointed before, so you hesitate to believe again. You've tried and failed, so you wonder if trying again is worth it. You've heard the voices of doubt, the opinions of others, telling you to stay where you are, to not get your hopes up. But the truth is, every person who has ever done something great had to first believe that it was possible. They had to believe even when there was no evidence, even when everything around them told them otherwise. They had to walk in faith, trusting that what they carried inside them was bigger than the obstacles in front of them. When you start believing that something greater is ahead, you start moving with a different kind of energy. You begin to attract opportunities that once seemed out of reach. You begin to align with the right people, the right places, and the right moments that propel you forward. Your confidence shifts, your vision expands, and the things that once seemed impossible now feel within reach, because belief creates momentum. It opens doors that hesitation keeps shut. It allows you to see possibilities where others see dead ends. There will be moments when doubt tries to creep in, when the road ahead seems uncertain, and when it feels easier to settle than to keep believing. But that's when you have to remind yourself why you started in the first place. You didn't come this far just to stop now. You didn't overcome everything you've been through just to accept a life that is less than what you were meant for. You have to keep believing, keep pushing, keep stepping forward, even when you don't have all the answers. Because the moment you stop believing is the moment you stop moving. And the moment you stop moving is the moment you stop growing. What you believe about yourself, your future, and your potential is shaping your reality right now. If you believe you are limited, you will live a limited life. If you believe you are capable of more, you will start seeing more opportunities. If you believe that your past defines you, you will stay stuck in old cycles. But if you believe that greater is ahead, you will start making decisions that align with that future. You will start walking with purpose, speaking with authority, and preparing for what's next. Because when you truly believe, nothing can stop you from stepping into the life that was meant for you. There comes a moment when you realize that the environment you're in no longer fits who you are becoming. The conversations, the habits, the expectations, it all starts to feel too small, too familiar, too limiting. You look around and recognize that you've outgrown certain spaces, that the version of you that once fit so comfortably in those places is no longer the person you are today. Growth has a way of stretching you, of making you uncomfortable in places that once felt like home. It's a sign that you are evolving, that you are being called into something bigger, that where you started was never meant to be your final destination. Not everyone will understand this shift. Some people will see it as you changing too much, as you forgetting where you came from, as you thinking you're better than those around you. But the truth is, when you start elevating, not everyone is meant to come with you. There are relationships, mindsets, and environments that were only meant to be part of a certain chapter of your life. Holding on to them when you are supposed to move forward will only slow you down. You can't take everyone with you into your next season, and that's one of the hardest lessons to learn, because sometimes the people who knew you best in one season won't recognize you in the next. They will try to pull you back into old habits, into old ways of thinking, into comfort zones that no longer serve you. But if you are truly committed to where you are going, you have to be willing to let go of what no longer aligns with your future. Growth requires separation. It requires distancing yourself from anything that keeps you from stepping fully into who you are meant to be. That doesn't mean cutting people off without reason, and it doesn't mean looking down on where you came from. It means understanding that elevation comes with choices, and sometimes those choices are hard. It means realizing that you cannot grow while staying in spaces that were built for a smaller version of you. It means recognizing that if you truly want to walk into the next level of your life, you have to be willing to release what is no longer serving your purpose. This process is not always comfortable. There will be moments when you feel alone, when you wonder if moving forward is worth the sacrifice. You will miss the familiarity of the past, the ease of what once was. You will have moments of doubt, questioning if you are making the right decisions, wondering if maybe you should just settle back into what is known. But the thing about growth is that once you've been stretched, you can't go back to your old shape. Once your mind has expanded, once your vision has grown, once you have seen glimpses of something greater, settling will never feel right again. You will always feel the pull toward more, the restlessness that comes from knowing that you were created for something beyond where you are. Some people will try to guilt you into staying where they are. They will remind you of how things used to be, of how you used to think, of how comfortable life was before you started growing. They will try to convince you that you don't need to change, that you don't need to reach for more, that you should just be satisfied with what you have. But deep down, you know that settling is not an option. You know that there is more inside you, more that you are meant to do, more that you are called to become. You know that playing small, staying in familiar places, and shrinking yourself to make others comfortable will never bring you the fulfillment you are looking for. Elevation comes with isolation, but isolation is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's a time to reflect, to refocus, to realign yourself with your purpose. It's a time to shed old layers, to release anything that is weighing you down, to prepare for the opportunities ahead. Because the next level of your life requires a new version of you, a version that is not attached to past limitations, a version that is ready to embrace change, a version that is willing to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with where you are headed. You were never meant to stay in the same place forever. You were meant to grow, to evolve, to elevate. And while the process may not always be easy, it is necessary, because what is waiting for you ahead is far greater than anything you are leaving behind. And when you finally step into it, you will realize that every sacrifice, every moment of separation, every uncomfortable transition was worth it, because you were always meant for more. Sometimes the hardest part of stepping into the next season of your life is trusting that you are ready for it. After everything you've been through, after every challenge you've faced, after every battle that almost broke you, There's a moment when you have to stop looking at yourself through the lens of where you've been and start seeing yourself as the person who is ready to walk into something greater. Because for too long, you've questioned whether you are enough. You've second-guessed whether you have what it takes. You've looked at other people who seem more qualified, more prepared, more capable, and convinced yourself that maybe you should just stay where you are. But there comes a time when you have to silence every doubt and remind yourself that everything you've been through has already prepared you for what's ahead. You didn't go through all of that just to stay in the same place. The struggles, the lessons, the moments that tested your faith, it wasn't for nothing. You didn't overcome what tried to break you just to sit back and play small. You were being shaped, refined, strengthened for something bigger. And now, the only thing standing between you and your next level is your willingness to believe that you are ready. Because the truth is, you don't need another sign. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need to wait for someone else to validate you. You've already been given everything you need to step into what's next. The only question is whether you will trust yourself enough to take that step. Fear will always try to convince you that you're not ready. It will whisper every insecurity, remind you of every mistake, try to make you feel like you need more time, more preparation, more proof before you move. But fear is a liar. Fear will always find a reason to keep you stagnant, to make you doubt yourself, to make you hesitate when you should be moving forward. And if you wait until you feel completely fearless, you will never move. Because every great transition, every big step, every moment of elevation comes with uncertainty. But uncertainty is not a sign that you should stop. It's a sign that you are stepping into something new. It's a sign that you are growing. It's a sign that you are exactly where you need to be. You've been waiting for the right moment, but the right moment is now. You've been waiting until you feel completely ready, but readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's deciding that you will no longer let fear, doubt, or insecurity keep you from stepping into what is meant for you. It's deciding that even if you don't have all the answers, even if you don't have everything figured out, you will still take the first step. Because the truth is, you will never feel 100% ready. You will never have all the details laid out perfectly. You will never reach a place where every single doubt disappears. But what you do have is everything you need to start. And starting is what matters. There are opportunities waiting for you, but they require you to step up and claim them. There are doors that are already open, but you have to walk through them. There are connections, breakthroughs, and blessings aligned for you, but you will never access them if you keep hesitating. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to let your past dictate your future. This is not the time to keep playing it safe. This is the time to trust yourself, to believe that you are ready to step boldly into what is ahead without fear of failure. Because even if you stumble, even if you make mistakes, even if things don't go exactly as planned, you will still be moving forward. And forward is the only direction you are meant to go. You didn't come this far just to stop now. You didn't survive everything you've been through just to let doubt hold you back. You are stronger than you think. You are wiser than you give yourself credit for. You are more prepared than you realize. Everything you have been through has equipped you for this moment. The question is no longer whether you are ready. The question is whether you will finally believe that you are. Because when you do, nothing will be able to stop you from stepping into the future that was always meant for you. You've felt the shift. You've sensed the calling. You know deep down that you can't stay where you are. And now the only thing left to do is move. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt was never meant to stop you. It was meant to prepare you. You've been stretched, refined, and strengthened for this exact moment. And now the only thing standing between you and the life that was meant for you is your willingness to step into it. No more waiting for the perfect moment. No more looking for another sign. No more shrinking yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. This is the time to rise. The time to trust that everything you've been through has equipped you for what's ahead. The time to stop doubting your worth, your abilities, your calling. the time to walk boldly into the future that is waiting for you. The doors are open. The opportunities are here. The only question is, will you step through? Because once you do, you'll look back and realize that every moment of uncertainty, every sacrifice, and every challenge was leading you to something greater than you ever thought possible. Your next level is calling. It's time to answer.